Now, Angels of Death Episode 1 has arrived, and this was an anime that I was kind of 50-50 on. On one hand, I was thinking, is this going to be a great horror anime? But then again, on the other hand, I was like, I only like one horror anime really, and that Shiki. Horror anime and just horror series in general outside of video games just really aren't my cup of tea. They don't spook me, they just feel cheesy and over the top. This one seemed a bit more intriguing, having the idea of this 13-year-old girl, Rachel, waking up in this strange building. Each floor has its own insane person trying to kill her, and essentially the craziness and how the story would unfold of where she is and why she doesn't have any memories. That sounded like a decent enough starting point in the preview. It looked pretty good in terms of the overall animation and directing that was being presented. Coming into this episode, I actually did have a fun time. Now, this is going to be an anime that I think for every 3 people who watch it, there's going to be one person saying it's so over the top and stupid they can't take it seriously, and then probably 2 people saying they had a fun time with it. Now, I fall in the category of I had a fun time with this. This isn't going to be groundbreaking in terms of a first episode, but the thing that caught my eye was actually how they directed this first episode. The first half of this episode was directed so damn well that it really was like, okay, I'm gonna keep watching this for at least a few weeks to see where this is going to go. The thing with horror series in general, I feel like they just aren't scary and they just don't sell the atmosphere well. And though this anime didn't spook me, they really sold the atmosphere of this building, having this girl wake up not know where the hell she is, and how they would use techniques like shaky cam when she was running to really get inside the head like she's scared for her life and shit's going to get bad, or how they will just warp the perspective around and play around with camera angles to really make it feel a bit more interesting than your typical horror anime of insert close-up shot of a scared face here and then insert a scythe guy here. It actually felt much more unique than what I was typically used to, so I was really interested in seeing the first floor and having this scythe wielder Zack come in trying to kill her because there's an announcement on the radio saying like, hey, everyone kill this girl, she's no use to us anymore. So I kind of like that starting point because it's basic, but I don't think you really need that overly deep of an intro plot point. The fact that this is going to be, I think it's 16 episodes, 13 episodes are airing in Japan, and then the last 3 episodes are airing online. Now I expect Crunchyroll will have all 16 episodes, we'll see. But the fact that it is going to be so long, I do think it's going to have a more complex plot down the line. But in terms of your intro stuff, look at all the classic horror movies, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. They're actually not that complex when you break it down, but the simplicity worked to their favor. Sure, their sequels were repetitive and no one talks about them, but the classic movies, the reason they work so well is because simplicity can actually benefit your series, and I feel like that's a good way to represent this. It's a simplistic first episode, but I think they managed to get that, like, this is a bad building, this girl is being hunted, Zack's now being hunted because he broke the rules and went to a different floor and then also killed the person of that floor, Danny, who was this, like, weird-ass doctor guy who just has this weird obsession for eyeballs and really wanted to just either kill Rachel, take her eyeballs, or have Rachel live with him. He's just a lonely asshole who has no friends on that floor. So I actually liked how they presented that, because there's going to be people saying the villains of this episode, Zack and Danny, they were so over the top they can't take them seriously. But I think that's a good thing, because when you really break it down, if you're going to have characters who are in this building, there's going to be multiple floors, each one are going to try to kill this little girl who we don't know who she is and why she's there and she doesn't have memories. I think you need to have ridiculous characters because a normal person is not going to want to kill people for fun. When someone kills someone either by accident or for revenge of what they do, it's not typically something they get a joy out of. The people who do this for fun, typically you're gonna want them represented in a crazy way, so I actually appreciate that a character like Zack is this dude with a scythe who, I think it's Bakugo's voice actor, and just, he's insane. Danny's an insane doctor, and I think that works because anime, it has this silly aesthetic to it, this silly atmosphere that it can use, and I actually think this first episode, it did it pretty well, because these are crazy killers, and they shouldn't be represented in a more normal fashion, and I like that personally, though if you don't like that I could understand why, but for me that actually did work in its favor instead of just trying to be the, oh, we're going to try to sell this crazy murderer as a pretty normal person. You look at Jason, no, he sees a girl on the beach, he's gonna put his machete right through her skull. I just think it works a lot better. I think they're using the anime form to their advantage in this way. But I will say, the thing that I really do enjoy is the fact that Rachel, I thought she was going to be a girl who was just this normal girl in a shitty situation and they were going to run with that gimmick, but it definitely strikes me as everyone who's in this building is insane in their own way or has their own messed up quirk to them. The fact that she has this, like, dead bird who she stitches back up, and just her entire form, the way she acted in this episode, I mean, it's not surprising she begs for death at the end of the episode after seeing a crazy doctor wanting to rip her eyeballs out, but the fact of the matter is I wouldn't be surprised if she's a killer too, or maybe she just has a psychotic nature to her. So I appreciate that because it becomes more interesting than just, oh, this is this little girl who needs protecting. I think this is a little girl who's probably just as insane as the doctor or other characters in this building, and I think that's interesting. This isn't going to be, I think, anyone's anime of the season based on the first episode. I have heard some good things about middle to end content is supposed to be really good, and I do expect the story will get a bit more interesting as it goes on, as would anything, but I think anyone writing off the characters based on this first episode, how many horror movies do you watch that in the first 20 minutes you're sold on the character's deep backstory? I mean, you look at Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, the first 20 minutes is set up to show like these are some messed up characters and you don't want to cross paths with them. And I think it's going to be interesting seeing Zach and Rachel work together because essentially he's now been kind of cast away, so he's going to have to work with her and try to escape. So I think that will be fun. This isn't anything like groundbreaking. I'm not sure if I would continue reviewing this week by week, but just want to get my first impressions out there. I know it's going to be maybe a more polarizing show of the season. People are going to pass off the word edgy nonstop because there is a lot of graphic gore in this episode, but I found it to be no more graphic than a lot of horror movies that I quite like that people don't claim to be edgy. I felt like the actual more like extreme situations were used to establish the horror element. It didn't just feel like fetish porn for just some sick individual. You know, for me personally, I think it did a solid job. I'm interested to see where the future episodes will go. I think it could easily fail, but I am excited to see if this will succeed by the end. But let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you going to continue with it? Let me know what you're feeling, and before you leave, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and if you're new, also be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.